Okay, it is 6:30. I'd like to call tonight's remote meeting of the Dalton Select Board to order. Can everyone hear me?
Yep, I can, Carol.
Okay, thank you. So then the adjusted expenditure total was $1,045,638.67. And this number right here, I was off by 5 cents. And so there's a little bit of a variance. I didn't find the 5 cents. I didn't have time to go back further. And then to get what we looked at for expenditures is we have these offsetting amounts. So then the net is this amount right here, and the variance is the $13,410 over budget. I also looked at the appropriation. The summary is right here by department. And that's where you look at, when I'm looking at that $13,000, this is the total appropriation. And it's right here as well. And that's where we have the difference right here. So we are slightly over budget. I just want to mention the profit and loss statement, the P&L statement, is not ideal. So we're using QuickBooks. QuickBooks is not a municipal accounting system. It doesn't, for example, do fund accounting and other things that are part of municipal accounting. So it's not an ideal way of tracking our finances, but it's less money than a municipal accounting system. So this is, and we're still making changes for this. I mean, if I scroll up here, you'll see various things highlighted. Those are changes that still need to be made. So this is still preliminary as we're trying to close out the year. But I just want to note, if you look at the bottom of this, there's this fee that it looks like, there's 290,000 deficit. That means nothing. This has things like it has Conservation Commission in it, which really is its own fund. What we really need to look at are expenses. As I say, there were some corrections, and that is what is on that other spreadsheet that I showed. The thing that this compares it to is income that is income except for property taxes. So another way of looking at it is this number is the revenue that has to be raised through property tax to fund the town. And I'm saying that because we got an email that was very disturbing because it alleged misappropriation of funds. And I can assure you that I have looked at, and all three of us have looked at this statement with fine-tooth comb. We're going through, we're looking at how things are categorized, we're looking for documentation, we're making sure that everything is appropriate. And yes, we did overspend the budget by a little bit, but not significantly. Certainly not by $300,000. There is absolutely no way that we would have gone through this year, even with the challenges we faced, with that type of an overreach. And it's very, very disturbing to have unfounded allegations made. I'm happy to walk through how to read financial reports with people. I'm trying to do that now. Okay. We have several people who have asked to speak with public comments during that session. We also will be having we have some non-public business to do. One part of that will involve a citizen, so we'll work with that when we adjourn the other part of the meeting. So, first of all, Linda Greenwood, would you like to speak?
Yes. Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes? Okay. I'm hoping that the board can have answers to my question at the next meeting. I will send you an email with my questions, so you don't have to worry about writing them down. The town voted in 2020 to spend $7,700 to area health agencies. That was line items 4411, 4415, and 16. I see on the paper that the spreadsheet Beth just put up, it was 2158. Why the difference? When the town voted to spend 7,700.
And we have, as we're going through things, we have caught that as well. And so we are now backtracking, and it's part of this is the change in the staff and the turnover, because it was all together, and so we will be following up and making those payments. They may post in 2021 instead of 2020. But thank you for bringing that to our attention. It's one of the things that we've been looking at as well as we go through all of the year-end reconciliation.
My sincere hope for the town of Dalton in 2021 is that this select board will begin to run the town as a business. And that's the end of my comment.
Thank you. Jesse Winworth?
Yes, I am here with Linda. So I just would like to know, there is a huge difference between the preliminary profit loss report that I saw and the spreadsheet that you put up, Jo Beth. So when can we see the details of how you got the numbers that you put on the lines?
We would like to get it reconciled first.
Okay.
And make sure that you're taking into account those two columns that I showed you.
Right. Well, I did, and I still couldn't come anywhere near your number, so I'm anxious to see where I've gone wrong on reading the report, so.
Okay, I have gone through it very carefully, and I feel comfortable that the numbers may not be perfect, but they are close. But certainly, we will certainly share the detail.
Okay, perfect. That's all I'm asking. As soon as you have it, I would love to see it. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Excuse me. Thank you, Jesse.
You're welcome.
Christine, Ordinetz.
Yes, thank you. I have a statement that came from one of the members of Dalton Concerned Citizens. Reads as follows. Our first comment this evening is a request to the Select Board. We ask you to issue a formal condemnation of the vile, inappropriate bullying and terrorist attacks made against us and against many other Dalton residents by your supporters. Your supporters are trying to terrorize us into silence when we raise issues of town-wide concern. Your supporters target us personally, attack us, and defame us on their Facebook pages and social media. Dalton residents and Dalton businesses are scared to say what they think because the same attacks may be launched at them. The town's being ripped apart. You know exactly what is going on. These personal attacks are the activities of your own supporters. As the town's elected officials, your silence makes you complicit. So we request that you step up and be the leaders for the whole town, not just your faction. Please formally condemn this abhorrent conduct and do your best to stop it. Social media is a very strong and powerful force, and it spreads false falsehoods throughout, on both sides, all sides. I think this nation has seen it in the past week, actually probably the past year, and it's happening in Dalton. We are asking you to represent all factions of Dalton and hear us clearly. We have grave concerns. The report, Joette, that you presented was very nice, very clear, very concise, but we would really like to see the line-by-line data from which you got your numbers. Thank you.
Okay.
And Joelle, with that being said, I feel that Christine needs to take a chapter from her own book, basically threaten legal action against the board. And her bullying goes back to June of 2019 when she wanted to have the firemen arrested for driving fire trucks. I think this is a two-way street, and I think the board has gone out of their way to not share what Christine has done with people. So she wants us to respect her. I'm asking her to start respecting the board by not sending out letters like this to all of the people, to state representatives. Let's list Kathleen Fountain, Kathy Barton. You know, so if she wants respect, then she needs to be respectful. That's all I need to say.
And I have not had time to think about the issue that you brought up, Christine. I believe that the board tries to be respectful to all people. I personally am not on social media, so I'm not seeing, I have a Facebook account, but I almost never go onto it. I just am not, I don't have a social media presence, so I can't react to something that I'm not seeing.
I post nothing on social media, so.
But we will certainly take some time to think about that and discuss it. We can decide whether we want to have a discussion now or if we want to think about it and discuss it at a future meeting and decide if there's some statement. I know personally, I believe that people should be treated with respect. And I don't believe that allegations should be made that are unfounded. I do not believe that people should be bullied. So that's my personal belief. Okay. Scott Kleinschrodt, would you like to make public comments?
Okay, can you hear me, JoBeth?
Yes.
Yeah. I
Okay.
can hear you.
First of all, it's really some questions rather than comments. I hope that I'll be given the opportunity to be uninterrupted in my questions and comments. Unlike last time I tried to present some material to the board, one of your own board members would interrupt me, and her husband would then try to interrupt me as well. So all I ask is that I be uninterrupted so that I can save my peace. Question number 2, and JoBeth, I did send you an email Friday, and I'm looking for an answer from the request that I made 2 months ago during non-public. You may not be able to answer this in public session, but I think the question I gave you in my email was pretty clear. I am looking for an answer. You said you would get an answer from town council, and I would appreciate that answer in writing from the town council when you do receive it. If you have received it, I don't know. Question number 3 is in regards to the COVID stipends. Now, a month ago, it was, and I think you folks were probably talking about it in the summer, so please forgive me if I wasn't at those meetings. But it was mentioned that there were some COVID stipends that were awarded to the town, and you actually spoke about those tonight. And were these stipends voted on by you folks? Or was this just like free money given to the town? Did you have to vote for these stipends?
We had to file for reimbursement for COVID-related expenses, and we discussed those in our meetings and noted the amount that was being submitted for reimbursement.
Right. So you didn't have to vote for them?
There were.
You didn't have to vote for this money to come to the town?
We had to, in public, yes, agree to submit the request for reimbursements, yes.
Okay. So how were these stipends divvied out? Like were obviously it looks like it was for when COVID relief was needed by the EMT or fire department. How were they divvied out, like per call? Were they divvied out just as a stipend to be on call? How were they divvied out?
So there were 2 pieces of it. One was stipends that were given, I think from FEMA through the state. And Carol, can you address how those were?
So it depended on if you were full-time, you got $300 a week on top of what the town paid you. I'm not sure about this. If you weren't full-time, you got $150 a week. The only thing that you had to sign a paper saying that during the time that they paid for, was it 12 weeks? I don't even remember, 10 weeks or 12 weeks, that you had to be available if there was a call. Every town got them that wanted them. I know that Whitefield did it. I don't know about other towns, but Lancaster did. So you had to sign a paper saying that you were available. A couple of our people did not do them in our department because Warren Green, I believe, did his through the police department because he got paid for full-time. Nate Parks did his through Whitefield because he got paid full-time. So that was how it was decided.
Okay. And rightfully so. I have no issues with giving out stipends during this past summer and with all that we were facing. I guess my concern is there's been an awful lot of talk about people recusing themselves during different meetings within the town. And I guess my question, just so that we all look good and that there is no question, if our EMS director did receive some of those stipends, Carol, I guess the question is were you voting on that or were you recusing yourself from those conversations?
I voted on for the department. I didn't, it was above what the town paid. It was a FEMA grant. It wasn't what the taxpayers paid. It went directly to the town to go to EMS. I didn't decide the amounts. The state of New Hampshire did. Like I said, there were 2 people who did not take it. So
did our EMS director take the stipend?
Yes.
Okay. All I'm doing is trying to make a point. I'm not trying to be critical, and I'm not being critical of the folks that are doing this very, very difficult work during these very trying times. It's just a point of there's an awful lot of discussion about people recusing themselves during different times, and I may suggest that might be in the future something you might take into consideration.
If it was town money, I understand that, Scott.
Okay.
If it was town money, the FEMA was a grant. The entire state of New Hampshire did it for all of their firefighters, police departments, throughout. It wasn't tax dollar money.
But my first question was did the select board have to vote to accept this money? And you said yes. So that's my point.
I believe the select board had to agree to have the money funnel in and go out.
Okay. So my next question is kind of related. After the events from 2 weeks ago as a citizen of Dalton, I request that the select board have a town discussion in regards to reinstating the police force. Again, how you folks run that or do that is up to you. I'm not on the select board, but as a resident, I'm making this formal request.
If you want to make this formal request, I suggest you could start a petition and you get X amount of names to go on it. I don't understand what you were referring to about the incident in Dalton.
You don't know what happened on Bridge Street 2 weeks ago?
I was there. Do you know what happened? Is my question.
Well, I know there was a shooting.
Why was there a shooting?
There was a shooting, and I don't have to ask for a petition to have a discussion. I know that for a fact.
But
I'm
if
not
you
saying to
did
bring
that-
back. I'm not saying to bring back the police department.
can I
I'm saying
just
that we
present
need to
that?
have a discussion in regards to reinstating the police department.
Why though? That's the discussion. Why? Do you feel that the New Hampshire State Police did not do their job?
Oh no, they did. But this is
Okay,
what we
so what-
we continue. If you let me finish, my very first question tonight was if I was going to be allowed to be uninterrupted. That was my very first question. And I was told yes.
Hey, I'll keep quiet until you're done, but then I'm going to have my.
Maybe
trying to
instead of
understand.
debating, listening might be a better idea.
Okay, go for it.
I've been saying this since April. This is not something new. This is not the first time you've heard me talk about town services being reduced. Because we have a tax base that is not diversified. This is not new. You've heard me say this. This is exactly why I'm saying this. We are losing town services due to trying to keep our tax rate at a reasonable level. And now we're paying the price for that. It wasn't that long ago where we had a police chief and 2 or 3 part-time officers. That wasn't that many years ago. I know I've lived here for 32 years, but it wasn't that long ago that's what we had. And year by year by year, town services are reduced. And now this is what we are living with. I am not being critical of the state police. Again, they do the best that they can do. But they're stretched, their time is stretched also. And we as a town have the right to have this as a formal discussion where people have the right to put out their opinion. And that's all I'm asking for. It's a reasonable request. This is not a petitioned article. This is not petitioning to bring back the police force. It's to have a town-wide discussion. Now, if you would like to respond to that, you may. I have one more thing to add, but if you want to respond to that, you may.
I would love to respond to that. Town meeting 2020, there was a discussion to keep the police department or go with state police. That is where the discussion was. That is where they decided that they would prefer to have state police. So I guess if you want to have a discussion, do a warrant or bring it up at
I don't
town
need to
meeting.
do a warrant article to have a discussion, Carol.
Then
I know I don't need to do that. And after what happened 2 weeks ago, it may be time to bring that conversation back up to the floor.
Sure.
Now, as we talk
Okay.
about budgetary issues,
Okay.
you do not want to look at diversifying our town's tax base. That's very clear. And so now what I'd like to ask is all 3 of the select board members, where they stand on this planning, on the zoning ordinance that has been produced. For it or against it? Simple yes or no. I'm for it or I'm against it.
Haven't decided. I don't have to vote yet. I'm still weighing both sides.
Okay, Joe Beth, how about you?
So the zoning as proposed is going to be revised. I see benefit to zoning. I see where Littleton could have had a very dangerous situation with that battery farm in a residential area with severe concerns about the fire, and if there was a fire, it would have been very, very toxic and something that the local fire departments could not have put out. And the only thing that stopped it was having zoning. I think zoning should be reasonable. So when I started looking at what we had put together for budget, and we are looking at trying to control cost and not increase it. But I started a wish list. On my wish list are things like having somebody redesign the town webpage so that it's better organized and more attractive and easier to navigate. But again, that takes resources. The second item on my list, and this was just my rough one, was looking at economic development. Hiring a consultant to look at what it takes. I know that Littleton, with their industrial park, that is the town owns the land, and it's a public-private collaboration. There are some funds for economic development, some grants that can be tied into, and I think it goes along with the master plan in terms of what type of development Dalton would like to attract, and if they can. I mean, is there recreational businesses that feed into the other things that are going on in the North Country? I think there's lots of opportunity. I think it takes somebody who is knowledgeable about how to do that and who has worked with Chamber of Commerce's. And I think it takes a professional person to be involved as a consultant. That would take money. I think those are things that we should discuss as a town if we want to ask for more money in our appropriation to do those things. And I think they're good ideas, but I also know that people in the town do not want their taxes to go up, and I'm very conscious of that. So how do we balance that? But I think we should have discussions about that. The discussion about the police in the state, the state police versus having our own police force. Last year, the town did discuss that. It was a budget neutral thing. I don't have the history of when the police force was diminished, but it was very, very, it's just a part-time person last year when we made the transition to the state police. Those are all things that we should continue having discussions.
And,
I think there are other things that people would like to see in the budget as well.
And quite frankly, I would agree with some of what you just said. And believe it or not, I'm not against zoning. Believe it or not, I'm not against zoning, as long as it's done for the right reason and for the right in the right way. And when we talk about trying to diversify our tax base, by trying to put in a zoning ordinance that wants to keep this a rural residential community and not allow business to come in, you can't have it both ways. You can have it one way or the other, but you can't have it both ways. And I guess that's the frustration that I hear and that I see. And finally, Ms. Swan, how do you land on the zoning proposal? Oh, Tamila, I can't hear you. You're muted. Joe Beth?
Oh, do I have to unmute you? Sorry.
No, I think,
Got it. Okay.
sorry.
You're good.
You're over your 3 minutes.
So you don't have an answer?
I don't have to answer right now. I'm still.
Okay, all right, that's what I
Yeah.
figured I'd hear. I find it interesting that you're rightfully upset by unfounded allegations levied against the select board. You may know now how some of us feel by unfounded allegations made by the husband of one of your own select board members. And I am finished.
Okay.
Pam, did you want to speak? Pam had made some comments, and so I'm not sure if she wanted to speak.
I think she's muted. Pam?
I just asked her to unmute. Okay, she said she can't speak. So she just asked how much we had spent so far on Northway.
And I'm sorry, I know I've looked at that, I just don't have the number at the front of my brain right now. Let me see if I can get it. We can get that information. That's part of what I'm putting together in terms of a more detailed analysis to inform our budget. And we will provide that as a future meeting. Okay, are there any other public comments? Okay.
Pam said, the other thing is that she said that, did you know that Zoom does not allow landlines toll-free and people get charged? I mean, I think people are anybody that has internet service is paying for internet service. I mean, with the remote and the connectivity that we need, I mean, we try to do something that's equal access to everybody because the Zoom, getting on the Zoom with your computer is free. I don't know about landline charges.
And I think we went with Zoom because it was a more accessible platform than the WebEx that we were using when we first started this process. And I think many towns are using Zoom.
Article 4, change the police department. To see if the town will support contracting with the New Hampshire State Police to do regular patrols and non-emergency calls. This coverage to be in addition to the emergency coverage now provided to the Town of Dalton and to be paid for with the $15,000 in the operating budget for the police department. If this article does not pass, we will retain our current police coverage. Motion?
I make a motion to accept Article 4 as read.
I second that motion. The floor is open to discussion. Yes, sir.
Kenny Tuttle, 185 Landry Road, Dalton. I have a question about this. If we approve this, does that remove the police department line from the budget?
No, the police department line will still stay there, and we'll use the $15,000 in the line currently for this additional support of the state police department.
Well, isn't there other duties that the police department were performing above and beyond, patrol work like sex crimes or registry and pistol permits, things like that? That's not going to be covered anymore by our police department? So those services will be eliminated? If the money's all going to patrol, those things will be eliminated, am I wrong?
The pistol permits, if you are not required to have them, if you want a pistol permit, the Board of Selectmen can send it out to state police and they will do a background check and for the pistol permit. As far as the sexual registry, I believe that state police will cover them. They will check on their address. They need to register with state police. Those services will still be there. So I think at this point, our police department was just doing a few admin things, not any other calls per se.
Well, it's always been my hope that we could reconstitute a police department.
And that would be awesome. I totally agree with you on that. The problem is the cost and to find officers one officer.
I thought I had the floor.
Sorry.
Anyway, I spoke to John Fall today about this. And he said with the $15,000 that you're proposing to pay for this service, you're going to get about 3 hours of patrol a week. I think we could make better use of the money than giving it to the state police for coming in, sleeping on a Sunday morning from 3 to 6. I would oppose this. Thank you.
Anybody else, sir?
Yeah, I'll educate everybody.
Thank you, Matt.
Matt Favreau, Faraway Road, Dalton. Answer everyone, anyone have questions on
Sir,
this?
please address me.
All right, sorry,
Please.
moderator. How are you?
Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions regarding this so they can get facts and not hearsay?
Are there any questions in the audience that anybody wishes to ask about this and your qualifications, sir, to answer?
I'm a state police sergeant out of True.
Thank you. Anybody with, yes, sir? You may turn in address.
Frank Tillotson, 409 Dalton Road, grandson of Hazel Tillotson. Hey, to see if the town will support contracting the New Hampshire State Police to do regular patrols and non-emergency calls. The coverage and emergency coverage now provided, who provides that coverage?
New Hampshire State Police.
And it says up there that you're not going to do that
No, on top of that.
on top of it. Well, we do need, I mean, the crime rate at the top of the hill is starting to go up. So we do need more coverage, and the state police are doing a hell of a job. But we still need people in the area to fight this stuff that's happening.
Does the board,
I don't like living near a meth house, so.
does the board allow this gentleman
I have
to answer this?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead, sir. Yes, you may.
Good you go.
Go ahead.
Can I speak to them, or how do you want to do this?
Yeah, into the mic.
Matt.
I understand that, but the protocol is me.
Okay,
You
so
say it.
looking at Article 4, as far as, yes, the way it was written isn't exactly how this works. State police currently and will always have primary responsibilities in a community under 3,000. That's the way the law works, looking under our policies and procedures. Currently, the town of Dalton allocates $15,000 for the police department, which consists of John Fall. God bless John, he's done a great job over the years. He has one hell of a record of service. Unfortunately, as everyone can attest, and us specifically, he's not doing his part anymore. So this is a means to utilize our tax dollars, the $15,000, to subcontract extra duty patrols within the town of Dalton. So what does that mean? That means with the $15,000, depending on how the board wants it and through the taxpayers, however they want to appropriate it, that money will be used as additional directed patrols in the community. Specifically, during that point in time, as far as what they want. Is it once a week? Is it twice a week? It's all based on the board and the money set forth. That will, if the town accepts it, that will be brought to the upper echelons within the state police out of Troop F, and then they will reach an agreement with the town before any tax dollars would be appropriated. If this passes, those that are imposed, typically what happens, we already do in the town of Stewartstown, town of Monroe, Shelburne, the board can confer with them to see what their experience has been. It has been positive because we're there as a direct control. So if we were here for a 4-hour block, based on that money, based on what the last numbers were, I believe it was 48, so about once a week. So once a week, aside from us already doing everything to include all the sex offender registrations that all goes through state police, the pistol permits, the board can receive them, it goes to the state police, who does the background check, and essentially does all the legwork to send it back just to be handed out. So that's something that will still happen. So all this is doing is giving the town more visible police patrol coverage on top of all the other duties that the state police already does, which is answer emergency, non-emergency, any call for service. This was the numbers for last year pulled up in the town. Dalton and Coos County had 421 calls for service. Unfortunately, the PD, Chief Thal, answered 3 out of 421. So if you feel that $15,000 is being utilized appropriately, then by all means do it. This is giving the town and the taxpayers more visible police patrol coverage in a uniform capacity to be here on those 4-hour blocks. What will they do? They will patrol the town of Dalton. If any calls for service come in while they're here, they will deal with it. If they arrest anyone, have to go to court or anything else like that, they get injured, the town is not liable for that. The state will pick up the dollar on that because they're still working for the state in that capacity being subcontracted. On those directed patrols, once they're done, you actually do an actual log to indicate what you're doing, which then gets to the Board of Selectmen and they review it. Then if they feel, hey, we want you to do this or do that, they can express it back, it gets disseminated down and it moves forward. So what this is doing is providing more police coverage that's visible in a patrol capacity to the town on top of everything else that the state police already currently does in the town of Dalton, which is pretty much everything.
Any other questions for this gentleman? Yes, ma'am.
Nancy Camo at 805 Faraway Road. Matt, can you just explain to me like how that $15,000 is going to give us like how much more patrol?
So yet again, with the money allocated for the police budget, that, depending on how the Board of Selectmen works with our assistant troop commander who deals with this, they essentially figure out, hey, what do we want for hour increments? Typically, with the way we do it with overtime, it's 4-hour increments. Typically, it won't be less than that because that's pretty much the standard how it goes. So say for 4 hours, the town, or the board is the one that tells our assistant troop commander what the town wants, what the townspeople want. Hey, we want you here this Friday night, either pick a time or we want you here between like 6 p.m. and 10 p.m. or whatever it may be. If there's a town function like town hall or anything else like that, do you want someone here like today, Stewartstown, people were voting. We had someone there for 6 hours at the polls in case there was any issue in Stewartstown. That's what they wanted, and essentially we're doing this as a direct service to the town. While the trooper is here, he or she is the town's bona fide police patrol officer during that 4-hour block, 6-hour block, whatever the Board of Selectmen wants. If any other calls for service come in and they happen to leave because it's a really pressing call for service, the town is not still getting billed for that 4-hour increment. It stops, the state picks up with that. What else? That's how it works. It goes back, the board works with what they want on what days of the week and how often. Yet again, if you only want 15 will get you so much, and that's what they'll work out back and forth. On top of that, aside from doing it, what has been a very beneficial thing, I know in Monroe, in all the towns, Shelburne and Stewartstown, it allows troopers to get even more familiar, intimate with the town itself. Because what do? You're patrolling for 4 hours, so you get to see all the town roads and become very familiar with it. How does that benefit the townspeople? Well, when the troopers are responding, maybe not on that detail, but outside of that detail, providing the other police services, now they know where all the town roads are. So therefore, the response is better because you know where the town roads are. And you're like, okay, I don't need to look at a GPS or ask someone where that is. I know exactly where that road is because I work these patrols. And for 4 hours, what am I doing? I'm driving around all of these roads, looking for criminal activity, trying to get into things, being visible so people see us flying the flag and the colors out and about. So that's another big benefit to have it, is that the people that are already responding to help you currently are going to be even better prepared to do so because now they know where all the roads are and a lot more intimately connected with it.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir. No other questions? I will put the warrant article to a vote. It's Article 4, to see if the town will support contracting with the New Hampshire State Police to do regular patrols and non-emergency calls. This coverage to be in addition to the emergency coverage now provided to the town of Dalton, and to be paid for with the $15,000 in the operating budget for the police department. All in favor? All opposed? The motion carries 47-10.